She rescued him at midnight, but the shocking treasure was never told. The clock struck 12, and the wind howled like a banshee. Ava stood at the edge of the forest, her breath visible in the chilled air, heart pounding like a drum in a parade. Was it just the wind, or did she hear something deeper, a call for help? Shadows danced amongst the trees, twisting and turning as if they had a life of their own. Her intuition screamed that something was off. Something was waiting for her. Her mind swirled with thoughts. Just hours before, she was scrolling through her phone, lost in the mundanity of life. But a flash of light in the woods caught her eye, and now here she was, wrapped in a sense of foreboding. From somewhere within the darkness, a man's desperate shout pierced the silence. "Help me!" It echoed through the still night, raising goosebumps along her arms. Who was he? Why was he here, alone, at this hour? Ava, trembling with urgency, pushed forward. The overgrown path crunched under her heavy boots, branches scraping her skin like fingernails. The scent of damp earth filled her lungs. Heart racing, she stumbled upon a sight that stole her breath. A figure sprawled against an ancient oak, pale as the moonlight that barely filtered through the leaves. His eyes, wide and terrified, seemed to drink in the darkness. As she rushed to him, she could see fear etched on his face. A man barely alive, hands trembling, and something glimmering just beneath his shirt. What could he possibly be hiding? Her chest tightened, curiosity battling with dread. But deep down, she felt a tug of hope. If she could just save him, perhaps they could uncover the mystery together. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The man's gasping breaths filled the space around them, pulling Ava back to the moment. He reached for her, eyes pleading. "You have to trust me," he whispered. "What I have, it's not just treasure. It's the key to everything." A chill sliced through the air. What did he mean? She felt a mix of thrill and terror, anticipation dancing in her stomach. Was this just a rescue, or had she stepped into a web of secrets that would change everything? As darkness wrapped around them, Ava knew one thing for sure. They were no longer in just a forest, but at the cusp of a heart-stopping adventure that waited to unfold. What would they discover when the secrets beneath his shirt finally came to light? The man's gaze was like a beacon in the darkness, filled with desperation and an urgency that made Ava's heart race. She knelt by him, hesitant yet compelled. "What do you mean?" She held her breath, waiting for him to reveal the truth that felt so tantalizingly close. He struggled, drawing in sharp breaths, the silver glimmer beneath his shirt flickering in the dim light. "I can't say too much," he rasped, each word a painful effort. "They're coming. They'll do anything to get it back." Confusion knotted in her stomach. Who were they? What was at stake? His eyes narrowed, focusing on something beyond her. Fear and determination mingled as he whispered, "You must help me before it's too late." A violent shiver ran through her as she sensed the danger in his words, the heavy weight of a world unknown pressing against her. "Help you how?" she asked, glancing nervously around the shadows, half expecting figures to emerge at any moment. A thought struck her like lightning. Was this something she was truly ready for? The ordinary life she fled from seemed almost comforting now. He lifted an arm unsteadily, revealing a woven strand around his neck. "This it leads to the truth, to everything that has been lost." As he pulled at the edge of his shirt, Ava caught a glimpse of the object nestled against his chest, a small, ornate key shimmering with unexpected brilliance. "Is that what you mean by treasure?" she gasped, enchanted despite the circumstances. What secrets could this key unlock? He nodded, the movement almost a heady mix of hope and pain. Yes, but it's more than that. It holds a power that can change lives, but I need to get it to safety. His voice fell to a whisper, barely audible against the wind's howl. If it falls into the wrong hands, we'll all pay the price. Suddenly, a rustle in the underbrush broke the silence. Ava's heart leapt into her throat. Instinct urged her to flee. We can't stay here, she breathed, urgency creeping into her tone. If someone is coming, no. He gripped her wrist with surprising strength, eyes wide. You don't understand. I can't leave, not yet. They need to find me here. Confusion rippled through her. It felt like she was caught in a web of unending questions. Was this man a victim, or was there something more sinister lurking beneath his desperate demeanor? Heavy footfalls crashed through the trees, sending a tremor of fear down her spine. She knew they didn't have much time. Please, tell me what to do, she begged, her chest tight with anxiety. Trust the key, he urged, his voice steadying even as his breathing quickened. Keep it safe. When the time comes, it will show you the path. A flicker of movement sent Ava's heart racing, and she turned to see shadows advancing. Something dark and menacing was approaching, and she could sense the threat looming over them. She clenched the zipper of her jacket and prepared herself for what lay ahead. What if I can't? She whispered, her voice trembling. But before she could finish, those shadows spilled into the clearing, revealing figures shrouded in darkness, eyes glinting with malice. The man's expression shifted to panic. You have to run, he cried, desperation rising in his tone as he pushed her away, clutching the key closer to his chest. Ava's body screamed for her to follow his command, but her mind was an inferno of chaos. Was she really prepared to pick a side? As the first rush of figures burst from the trees, she faced a harrowing choice: to flee or to stand with a stranger shrouded in mystery. The weight of the moment hung heavy, and she felt the ground shift beneath her feet as the night spiraled into chaos. But before she could make her decision, a piercing scream shattered the air, and everything changed. What would happen next? What secrets would the key reveal? Ava's heart thundered in her chest as she confronted the swirling darkness that enveloped them. The man's terrified expression was a mirror of her own panic. Shadows twisted and morphed, creeping closer, their purpose clear in the sharpness of their movements. She had to make a choice. Run! The man shouted again, his voice strained. He pressed the key into her palm, the cool metal biting into her skin like a warning. Before she could fully comprehend the weight of his instruction, the figures lunged forward, dark silhouettes with glinting eyes. She felt paralyzed, every instinct battling against each other. But then, survival kicked in. With one impulsive movement, Ava turned and sprinted into the forest, heart pounding in sync with the thud of footsteps closing in behind her. Branches snagged at her clothes as she crashed through the underbrush, breath catching in her throat. The sound of heavy footsteps filled her ears like a terrifying orchestra, each beat matching the rhythm of her pulse. She could feel the shadows chasing her, an ominous presence lurking just out of view, ready to snatch her back into their murky depths. Ava! She heard the man yell, but she didn't dare to look back. She plunged deeper into the forest, dodging trees, as memories of her old life flashed in her mind. Comfort, safety, ordinary moments. She tried to escape, but this wasn't a nightmare. She could wake up from. Up ahead, a clearing opened under the ghostly glare of a moon dangling in the night sky. In the brief illumination, she noticed strange markings on the ground, an ancient circle etched in the dirt. The key slipped through her fingers, tumbling to the forest floor as she stumbled onto the stones. It was as if the circle was alive, pulsing with energy. She had to retrieve it. The man's words echoed in her mind. Trust the key, it will show you the path. A rustle in the trees snapped her back to reality. Something was moving behind her. Fear sharpened her instincts. Kneeling, she groped for the key, and with relief, her fingers closed around the cool metal again. Just as she grasped it, a figure lurched into the clearing, one of the shadows, his face obscured in a dark hood. Ava could feel the weight of his gaze as he approached. Heat pooled in her belly, a mix of courage and dread. "Stay back," she yelled, clutching the key tightly. The figure paused, tilting his head as if assessing her. "You don't understand what you're holding," he said, his voice smooth yet menacing. "That key belongs to us. It has the power to change everything, and it could very well destroy you." Her fingers trembled. The key pulsed with a warmth that flowed through her as he stepped closer. "Hand it over and your life will be spared. Resist, and you'll wish you hadn't." Ava's breath hitched. With every word he spoke, dread coiled tighter around her heart. What was the truth about the key? What depths of power did it hold? It seemed the night was just starting to untangle its secrets. Torn between surrender and defiance, she gripped the key harder. "I'll never give it to you," she shouted, fear igniting an unexpected spark of bravery. As the figure's lips curled into a cruel smile, time hung suspended in the air. She could hear the distant howls of the night. But as the shadows behind him began to stir, a sudden realization dawned. She wasn't just fighting for her life. She was on the brink of discovering a truth much larger than herself, a truth that could entangle her fate with the fate of many others. What kind of power lay within the clasp of her hand? And what would she have to become to wield it? With a deeper breath, she steeled herself, ready to confront the unknown. The line between good and evil had never been so blurred, and before her lay the choice that would seal her destiny. Would she discover the path that could either liberate or endanger them all? The figure took a deliberate step forward, and Ava could see the glint of something sharp at his hip. It was real, too real. There was no escaping this moment. The shadows seemed to pulse with malevolent glee, creeping closer as though eager to claim their prize. Ava's mind raced. "What do you want with the key?" She tried to sound defiant, but fear laced her voice. His smile widened, revealing teeth that were too white against the darkness. "It's not just a key, dear Ava. It's a portal, a gateway to powers buried deep within this forest. Powers that were never meant for your kind." A chill traveled down her spine. "You think I'm just going to hand it over? You're mistaken." "Very well," he said, his voice dripping with disdain. "But you're not the only one who desires its power." As he spoke, the shadows behind him twisted, writhing like surging serpents a breath away from a strike. Ava's heart raced even faster. She had to get out of there. With a burst of adrenaline, she dropped into a crouch, dodging to the side just as he lunged toward her. The sharp slice of air followed him, and she could feel the urgency in that movement. She scrambled for her feet, forcing herself to focus on the key, a tiny fortress of power nestled in her palm. Just then, the clearing erupted with movement. Figures poured through the trees, faces masked and eyes aflame with an unholy light, like wildfire in a dry field. They were here prey to her fears and hunters of her soul. "No!" Ava screamed, realizing that the key would not only unlock power, it would also be a beacon for those who sought to harness it for evil. "Foolish girl!" the hooded figure called back, a sneer painted on his face. "With the power of the key, we can control everything. Your defiance only fuels our fire." A wave of panic surged within her. She had to protect herself. With the urgency born of desperation, she raced toward the center of the ancient markings, where energy hummed beneath her feet like a heartbeat. A deep breath steadied her, reminding her of the reasons she chose this path. No more running, no more hiding. "Show me the truth," she shouted, clutching the key tightly against her chest. As her voice echoed into the night, the ground trembled. The air shifted, electrifying. The shadows halted, caught in a moment's pause. The clearing glowed brighter, and the markings beneath her shimmered with otherworldly light. She felt the key vibrate, sending waves of energy racing through her. The air thickened, and the forest around them began to blur. Was she too late? In that moment of clarity amidst chaos, memories rushed back, flashes of her past, people she loved, moments she feared losing. With a dawning understanding, she realized the key could either unite or divide. Bulbous orbs of light floated from the circle, swirling around her like fireflies, illuminating the dark. "Choose," a voice whispered through the shimmering lights. It echoed not just in her ears, but in the very core of her being. I choose to fight." She felt the key pulse with her declaration, shifting the atmosphere, and for the first time since this horror began, Ava felt a spark of warmth within her, an unexpected buoy from the vast uncertainty drowning her. But just as hope blossomed in her heart, the shadows surged back into action, drawn to her light. The hooded figure lunged again, shrieking with fury. "No one defies us." Ava had to act fast. The vision of battling the shadows alongside her newfound power flashed in her mind, lightning bright. But could she harness it without succumbing to the very darkness she faced? The choice was hers, and it was now or never. As she braced for whatever was about to explode from the intensity gathering in her heart, a deafening roar erupted from the forest, shaking the ground beneath her feet. What had she awakened? And in her quest to save herself, had she unwittingly invited doom upon them all? With the shadows lunging, her fate spiraled, and the key's resonance echoed in the air, a reminder that destiny often takes unexpected turns. Would she rise from the ashes or crumble under the weight of darkness? Time was running out. The roar shook the trees, rattling Ava to her core. It felt like a freight train charging through the clearing, and she staggered back, trying to grasp the depth of the danger. The shadows, now more than mere darkness, pulsated and twisted in response, as if sensing the tremendous power that had stirred from its slumber. Ava's heart hammered in her chest. Had she truly summoned this force? The orbs of light circling her seemed to dance with newfound vigor. They illuminated the scene, casting flickering shadows that darted like frightened mice, skimming the edges of the encroaching darkness. "Stand firm," she shouted, though uncertainty crept into her voice. Would they listen to her, or were they mere echoes of hope clinging to a deluded girl caught in the spirit's fray? The hooded figure hesitated, eyes wide, as if tasting a hint of fear. In that brief moment, Ava could see his calculated mask slip, revealing something raw and desperate beneath. "You think you can control it?" he spat, venom dripping from each word. Suddenly, the forest erupted as a massive shadowy beast emerged from the depths of the trees. Twisted and clawed, it towered above the clearing, dwarfing the figures that had once seemed a threat. A guttural growl rumbled from its throat, shaking leaves from the branches overhead. "Run!" someone shouted from among the masked figures, but it was too late. The creature lunged. Ava felt the energy from the key surge through her again, a heartbeat pounding in time with her own. It was a strange mixture of terror and exhilaration. She remembered the truth hidden within the key's power, the choice she had made. Without thinking, she thrust it forward, screaming, "Protect us!" The air thickened and golden light erupted around her, merging with the glowing orbs. The shadows froze, their forms contorting as the light splashed across them, revealing their grotesque features. The creature too stumbled, momentarily blinded by the brilliance. "Keep it steady," she yelled, even as her own hands trembled. The key orbed with energy, the hum in her chest vibrated fiercely, and she concentrated, forcing all her will into the light. It was fragile like a flickering candle in a storm, but somehow she held on. The hooded figure, realizing the tide was turning, snarled and stepped forward, knife gleaming in the light. "You will pay for this, Ava," he bellowed, raising his weapon. Time stretched as she watched him, a hunter lying in wait. Her breath hitching, she felt the shadows creeping back around him, ready to pitilessly consume. But with every ounce of her being, she pushed the light out further, using it like a shield. "No one has to die," she cried out, hoping her voice could pierce the frenzy. To her surprise, the creature seemed to waver, caught in the crossfire between the light and shadow, confused by the love that radiated from her heart. In that moment, it was caught between two worlds, the one of darkness it had always known, and the light that invited it into a new existence. "Listen," Ava gasped, fighting through exhaustion. "Choose to fight with us." A moment passed like eternity as its gaze met hers, and silence fell thick and palpable. The screams of an unseen audience echoed through the trees, their horror palpable as they watched what was unfolding. Then, the unthinkable happened. The beast made a low sound, a grumbling rumble that started to transform into something more recognizable, a cry of longing. Whispers of the shadows shivered and, against all odds, the creature stepped forward, breaking free from its dark chains. But just as the tide shifted once again, the hooded figure lunged toward Ava, and an explosion of shadow erupted around him. Darkness unfurled like a black wave with fury unleashed. Ava's heart dropped. Could a fragile moment of light mean the end? With looming dread, she faced him, unwilling to let her newfound ally the beast be swallowed by despair. The finality of action was upon her. Would she rise as a beacon, or was she simply a flickering light in the storm? As shadows surged with determined malice, Ava steeled herself, ready for whatever lay ahead. She whispered to the key, "Guide me." Seconds stretched into an eternity, and in that breath, everything hung in the balance. What would happen next? Would she find strength, or would darkness consume her once and for all? Time appeared to freeze within the expansive clearing. Ava could feel the weight of every heartbeat reverberating through her body, the pulse of existence tangled in the chaos surrounding her. The hooded figure lunged, shadows trailing behind him like a dark cloak. Instinct kicked in, and she thrust the key forward with a desperate reach. "Stop!" she begged, her voice raw. The golden light intensified, engulfing the shadowy beast that had, just moments before, threatened to unleash chaos. To her astonishment, it seemed to respond, flaring with its own innate energy. Ava felt an electric connection surging between her and the creature, a bond born from the depths of fear and the hope of salvation. "No!" the hooded figure raged as he fell against the immediate wall of brilliance. His knife gleamed like a shard of night, but the shield Ava forged held firm, searing through the mist of despair. The beast, now pulsating with golden power, hesitated, casting a sideways glance at Ava. Together she whispered, a fragile promise that resonated deep within its ancient spirit. But even in that moment of defiance, the shadows around the figure screeched, shrill with fury. As if recognizing the break in their hold, they lunged back, desperate to reclaim their master. The atmosphere thickened with tension, wrapped around them like a suffocating blanket. "Fools!" he shouted, eyes burning with malevolence. "You think light can protect you?" In a desperate bid, he plunged the knife down, a dark silhouette darting in the brilliance. The shadows skewered outward, and Ava felt the air crackle with a low, guttural threat. Just as he was poised to strike, the beast lumbered forward, the light swelling around it like an unyielding tide. Ava's heart raced. "No!" she screamed, as the creature met the weapon with force. A clash echoed, reverberating against the trees like the bell tolling a death knell. The impact spread waves of energy, cascading backward, and Ava stumbled, grasping her chest as she tried to comprehend the chaos. The brilliant light dimmed, allowing shadows to creep back at the edges of her vision. Then came a sound that shattered the air, a painful cry, raw and haunting. Ava turned swiftly, a mixture of dread and desperation churning inside her. The beast had staggered, its massive form now kneeling under the weight of both the blade and darkness. With suffocating urgency, she pushed the glowing key forward again. "Stand," she commanded, her voice a piercing arrow through the noise. In that very moment, She felt the shadows around her respond. They pulsed, flickering, and for a heartbeat, they hesitated. Could it be that they sensed the challenge of their puppeteer's failure? The hooded figure's face twisted in disbelief, a mere reflection of what lurked within his heart, a mix of fury and fear now etched in shadows. "What have you done?" he hissed, his knife dropping as he stepped back, consumed by the uncertainty that surged in the air like a rising tide. But there was something darker than fear weaving through the chaos. Ava sensed it, a presence stalking the edges of her awareness, waiting for its opportunity. A chill ran down her spine as shadows circled the clearing, and silence fell like a thick fog. The light began to flicker, dimming against this newfound pull, glimmers of hope dissipating like smoke. Ava knew she had to act fast. Her eyes flicked between the hooded figure and the beast, desperation igniting every atom in her being. "Please," she breathed, the words barely escaping her lips. "Choose the light. We need you. Now!" The shadows writhed at her command, a twisted dance of defiance, yet she could see the creature teetering on the edge of its decision, even as darkness continued to claw back. With a final gasp of hope, Ava tightened her grip on the key, summoning every ounce of light she could muster. Energy flared within her, a blinding beacon against the encroaching dark. But she couldn't shake the feeling that something bigger was watching, looming just beyond her reach. What was it? What other threats lay hidden in the shadows? Waiting for their moment to strike, the line was drawn, the battle was upon them, and Ava braced herself, unsure of whether the next moment would bring liberation or destruction. As the flickering light began to fade, she whispered to the key one last time, "Help us fight!" The heartbeat of impending doom pulsed through her, tantalizingly close. She had to hold on. Would hope be enough? Ava's heart thudded violently in her chest as the light flickered and dimmed, shadows twisting and curling as if alive. The once vibrant glow began to fade, probably an omen of despair. "Please," she murmured, desperation spilling over into her every breath. "Don't let it be over." The beast let out a pained growl that reverberated through the ground beneath her feet. Its massive frame trembled, a battle between light and dark tugging at its very being. The shadows seemed to pulse, merging into a swirling mass that encroached on the edges of Ava's mind, whispering doubts and fears. "You can't do this," they hissed in haunting symphony. A chill raced down her spine. She had felt fear before, but this was more than that. It was a creeping void, threatening to steal away every flicker of hope she clung to. "Fight it!" she shouted, her voice slicing through the overwhelming darkness. In a moment of vulnerability, the beast lowered its head, illuminated by the dying light. Ava saw the glimmer of life, the flicker of determination hidden deep within its fiery gaze. It was a reflection of herself. They were both fighting against insurmountable odds, holding on against the specters of hopelessness. And then a voice broke through the silence, low and gravelly, a sound that was more of a growl than anything human. "Your choice is not merely alive or dead, but light or shadow." The hooded figure leaned forward, his eyes glinting with twisted malice. "I offer you eternity in darkness." "Shut up," Ava yelled, indignation flooding her chest. "You don't control him." Weight lifted from her shoulders as the beast rose once more, defying its injuries, the chains of darkness rattling but not collapsing. The golden glow surged, pushing back against the shadows, a powerful tide against a relentless storm. The hooded figure recoiled, eyes wide with a mix of disbelief and fury. "No! This cannot be!" he barked, regaining his footing, reasserting himself, his knife now gripped tightly in his hand, the blade glinting ominously beneath a fractured moon. "I am not afraid of you," Ava declared, shockwaves of conviction resonating through her voice. She stepped forward, the key lifting higher above her, channeling every ounce of energy and belief into it. The air hummed, vibrating with a positive pulse, revitalizing the clearing. The shadows convulsed, the tendrils momentarily disoriented, grasping desperately like drowning figures trying to reach the surface. Ava could feel the connection, with the bees solidifying an unbreakable thread knitting their fates together. But then, as if she had stirred an ancient force, something darker began to brew beyond the clearing. It manifested as a shimmering veil, a swirling tempest of malevolence, just outside the boundaries of their fight. Tendrils of shadow snaked out, hungry and furious. "What is that?" Ava blurted, heart racing furiously in her chest. The hooded figure, momentarily stunned, laughed a low, menacing sound. "You've only witnessed a fraction of the darkness I command. This is merely the beginning." Ava's blood ran cold, as both awareness and comprehension swirled through her mind. The creature, sensing the shift, roared, the threat echoing like thunder. The brilliance around them flickered again as she reached for the key. The battle was escalating, and this time she could not afford to falter. Where would the shadows lead? To what other horrors were they tethered? Just as hope began to flutter like a candle in the wind, the dark veil expanded, visibly shifting towards them, and Ava braced herself for the fray. Was the light enough to combat the oncoming storm? Or were they about to confront a flood of unfathomable terror that would swallow them whole? Ava's determination flared, but with every ounce of hope, a thin thread of fear tightened around her heart. What would it take to win this fight? The next moment would reveal everything, but could she maintain her resolve against what lay ahead? The dark veil grew thicker, coiling like a serpent eager to engulf its prey. Ava's pulse quickened. She could almost taste the dread on her tongue. Uncertainty clawed at her mind, each heartbeat a reminder of what was at stake. She glanced at the creature at her side, its massive form vibrating with anxious energy. "Now we stand together," she shouted, voice cracking but unyielding. The key ignited with a fervent glow, illuminating the clearing for a heartbeat longer before plunging back into shadows. The hooded figure sneered, twisting his dagger with a flourish that made the air crackle with tension. "You think the power of a mere flicker can stand against the abyss?" His laughter echoed, a chilling sound that cut through the palpable fear in the air. Ava inhaled sharply. "We'll find out." This was it, the moment she would either break or rise. If answering her call, the beast beside her roared a primal sound that filled the night with fury and defiance. The sound washed over Ava, and for a fleeting second, she felt invincible. They were an unstoppable force. Yet, the shadows drew near, swirling and pulsating like a living entity. The air was thick with malevolence and suffocating despair. Ava and the beast had just become the eye of a storm, and now the tempest surged around them. Just then, the tendrils of darkness lunged forward, slashing through the light. Pain shot through Ava as a shadowy whip grazed her arm, and she stumbled back, struggling against the surge of fright. Her eyes darted to the hooded figure, who now stood unscathed, reveling in her turmoil. "Feel it, Ava. Embrace the fear." His voice was a chorus of temptation and malice. "Let it swallow you. This is your fate." "No!" she screamed, gripping the key tighter, willing it to respond. The glow flickered and dimmed again, like a protest against the overwhelming dark. And then, something deep inside her ignited a fierce spark flickering by sheer will. She had to remember her purpose. "I'm not alone." She extended her hand toward the beast, their bond palpable, electric even. "We are stronger together." The creature locked eyes with her, a fierce battle reflected back in its fiery gaze. It surged forward, mirroring her resolve. The light surged back, a roaring flame igniting in the depths of despair, pushing back against the shadows. Around them, the veil of darkness seethed and writhed, shrieking in fury, as if their defiance was a dagger to its very core. Shadows fought fiercely, but the golden light brightened, striking down tendrils and illuminating the darkest corners of the clearing. Just then, a breathtaking wave of energy erupted, lapping at the edges of the clearing like a rising tide. The shadows recoiled, a chorus of tortured wails echoing around them, as the darkness began to rip apart. The hooded figure staggered back, eyes wide with disbelief. "No! You cannot!" Before he could finish, a violent gust surged through the clearing, sending him sprawling to the ground. The dark veil shrank, twisting into itself, but new shadows clawed out, more aggressive than the last. Ava's heart thudded painfully in her chest as she realized the threat was not vanquished. The darkness was merely retreating to regroup, shifting tactics like a predator stalking its prey. What had she unleashed? With newfound terror and determination, she tightened her grip on the key. Friends in danger, laughter overshadowed by howls of darkness. Could they truly fight against something that could adapt, grow stronger? In the midst of her spiraling thoughts, a whispered urgency lingered. What if confronting the horror meant uncovering something far more sinister? Ava's breath hitched as she glanced at the hooded figure, his expression now a mask of fury and obsession. The threat was not just their survival, but something else lurking behind that menacing facade. The flicker of hope glimmered in her heart, but it burned beside an ember of fear. What truth lay in the shadows yet to be revealed? And at what cost would they uncover it? She felt as if the moment demanded action, but what could they truly be prepared to face next? The roar of the creature echoed through the clearing, a primal sound that snatched Ava from her thoughts. It wasn't enough. The darkness around them surged forward, the tendrils twisting and writhing like angry snakes, ready to snatch them back into the night. "Ava!" The creature's deep voice rumbled, vibrating in her bones. "We need to act now." She nodded, fear and resolve blending into something sharp and fierce. The key pulsed in her hand, a steady anchor amidst the chaos. But what could they do? She scanned the clearing, her mind racing. They had power, but the shadows were relentless. "This way!" she screamed, darting left. Following her lead, the beast charged alongside her, its massive form colliding with shadows, tearing them apart with each stride. Dread wrapped around her heart like a vice as she glanced behind. The hooded figure climbed to his feet, his eyes flashing with dark promise. He was not finished. "Do you think you can outrun the abyss?" he bellowed, voice dripping with menace. "You can't simply escape your fate. You brought this upon yourself." Each word felt like a spear aimed directly at her heart. Ava stumbled, the weight of his words crashing down. Did he have a point? Was this darkness a part of her? A glance at the beast, fierce and loyal, reminded her that it didn't matter what had brought them here now. They needed to move. With a surge of adrenaline, she swung the key high, unleashing a wave of blinding light. The shadows shrieked in fury, recoiling from the blast, but they were quick to regroup. The hooded figure grinned, teeth sharp in the dim light. He wasn't afraid. He was reveling in the chaos. "Let me show you your true nature," he yelled, lunging forward, shadows swirling around him like a cloak of despair. Ava felt an icy grip around her heart as she watched him evolve into something worse, his form flickering, merging with dark energy. "No! We can't let him do this!" she shouted, pushing forward, and the beast roared again, charging directly at the figure with an intensity that shook her. But shadows leaped to life, tendrils snapping upwards in defense, and they met the beast head-on. Ava skidded to a halt, panic rising like bile. Their bond was strong, but could they beat this? "We need a plan," she gasped, breathless. "Feel the light!" The creature's voice thundered, urging her onward. She felt it bloom in her chest, a warmth growing, igniting both the key and her spirit. With a swift motion, she held the key to the sky, channeling every ounce of hope and strength she possessed into it. The glow grew, blinding, a beacon piercing through the night. The shadows shrieked louder, retreating as if scalded. For a moment, she thought they had won. Then something shifted. From the dark mass at the figure's feet, shapes began to emerge, darker, denser. What is this? The question fell from her lips almost as a prayer. The figure laughed, a sound twisted with madness. You will see. This is only the beginning. As figures materialized, twisted and grotesque, memories flickered in Ava's mind. Friends, family, fears she thought long buried. The darkness fed on her past, clawing at her. With every step back she took, the shadows lunged forward, growing in numbers. No! She cried, summoning her will. I will not fear. But the truth loomed closer, a revelation that made her blood run cold. What if the real battle lay not just in the shadows, but within? And what awaited her on the other side of this dark threshold? As whispers of despair rippled through the clearing, Ava steadied herself, but the darkness surged back, insisting she confront something even greater. Did she truly have the strength for what was to come? The shadows stretched, forming shapes that flickered almost human-like, beckoning her. A decision loomed, and Ava felt time shifting. What isn't spoken may echo the loudest, but what if I'm meant to break my silence? With a breath caught in her throat, she realized this was not just a fight for survival. It was a battle for her very soul. What truth lay in the heart of the shadows? Would she dare to uncover it? Ava stood at the precipice of oblivion, shadows writhing around her like serpents hungry for her soul. The beast beside her trembled, its massive frame filled with fury and empathy. Together, they were a flicker of light in a sea of darkness. The hooded figure laughed, a sound that sent shivers clawing down her spine. You are weaker than you know. The abyss hungers for you. No! Ava shouted, her voice a roar against the cacophony. Hope flickered within her like a candle against a raging storm. I want to be afraid. With that declaration, she raised the key high, channeling every ounce of strength, passion, and love she had left. The golden light surged from the key like a comet blazing through a stormy sky, pushing back the waves of shadow enveloping the clearing. The hooded figure's madness twisted into horror as the light overwhelmed him, fractures appearing in his dark cloak, and shadows recoiled. You think this light will last? He screamed, desperation creeping into his voice. You will crumble. Just then, a deep growl erupted from the beast, a chilling yet affirming sound that rolled over the clearing like thunder. Feel the truth, Ava. Light can drown the darkest fear. Emboldened, Ava pushed deeper into her memory her friends, their laughter, the warmth of connection, the love she had almost forgotten in her frantic bid for safety. We stand together, she shouted, solidifying the bond between them. The creature surged forward, its claws tearing through the lingering shadows as if they were mere smoke. Together, they charged at the hooded figure, the light from the key flaring bright enough to blind everyone present. The air shimmered around them, the darkness fractured against the wave of their unity, beginning to break apart as a tide erodes a dam. But just as victory seemed to be within reach, the figure's sneer curled into sinister defiance. You cannot escape your darkness, he roared, plunging his dagger into the earth. The ground seemed to shatter, releasing an explosion of shadow that pulsated outward like a black wave, swallowing up everything in its path. Ava's heart dropped, but determination ignited anew. No! She shouted, bracing herself. You don't own me. A surge of warmth blossomed in her chest as she recalled the kind of person she wanted to be not just in the moment, but always. She felt the key resonate against her heart, vibrating with the spirit of her choices. Protect what is good, Ava cried, holding the key before her. The beast echoed her sentiment, roaring into the storm of chaos. They formed an indomitable wall against the flood of shadow. The golden light expanded, wrapping around the both of them, illuminating the darkness in a tapestry of vivid hope. Choose to fight, she urged, anchoring her voice in the center of the storm. Both she and the creature poured their essence into the brilliance of the key, a soundless vow of commitment to the light. The shadows screeched, roiling back in shock. Tension cracked in the air like a whip, and yet the hooded figure was relentless. "You think you can wield the forces of fate against me? The light is merely a flicker," he bellowed, yet Ava could see the tremor in his hands, the doubt creeping into his eyes. "Light is stronger than fear," she shouted with a conviction that resonated in her bones. And in that moment, something shifted. The shadows began to fragment. The dark form of the hooded figure flickered and twisted, caught between his own malevolence and an inkling of dread. "No! This cannot be!" he cried out just as the beast lunged forward, shattering the remnants of his power with one great swipe of its claw. The beast's impact sent a shockwave of brilliance sweeping through the clearing. Ava felt the ground vibrating, trembling beneath their feet. The shadows whirled chaotically, spinning like a tornado before collapsing into a blinding burst of light. As the darkness unraveled, Ava felt both a sense of loss and an exhilarating dawn. The hooded figure fell away into nothingness, swallowed by the past he tried so desperately to cling to. He had chosen darkness, yet the light consumed the shadows. A mist of calm rolled across the clearing, wrapping around Ava and the beast like a protective embrace. The echoes of battle faded into whispers, leaving behind only a gentle silence. Ava let out a shaky breath, eyes wide and pulse racing. "Did we won?" she asked, glancing toward the creature that had fought at her side. "Yes," it responded, its deep voice vibrating with certainty. "Together, we harness the power of choice. You are stronger than the darkness that once shadowed you." Tears brimmed in Ava's eyes, relief washing over her in an overwhelming wave. "But what now?" The creature turned, gazing into the distance beyond the clearing. "Now, you must take the key and forge a new path, one illuminated with hope. Use it wisely, Ava." She felt the weight of the key in her palm, a tangible reminder of her journey, the battles won, the fears faced. There would be light ahead, and though darkness lurked, she held the power to choose. And as they walked forward, the forest seemed to bloom around them, vibrant and alive, a testament to their resilience. Ava took a deep breath, relishing the freedom to forge her own destiny, renewed with purpose. "In the end, I'm not just a victim," she whispered, the truth threading through her heart. "I am the light." This was their farewell. Not just to the shadows, but to the past. Ava was ready for whatever lay ahead. Subscribe immediately to the channel, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.